drive, where that's where all the recordation is going to be collected. So again, all of this information is being collected digitally. People are not so interested in records, the paper kind. And so what you don't want to end up in a situation of is having your technicians or your inspectors out there writing everything down on paper, then having to come in, get everything reviewed, and then having someone sit at a scanner and scan a multi-page document in, go back in, make sure that the document's scanned okay, that you didn't lose pages, that things are not legible. You've got to find ways to get out there and sort of do it as much as possible, the one-touch approach. I've got a data collection instrument, I enter my data, I upload it digitally, it's digitally approved, and it goes straight to the client's record-keeping system without having to take time for scanning, shuffling of papers, etc. So it sounds very simple, a bit more of a challenge than just that we found. So again, I'm going to talk about how we implemented this on the light rail Blue Line extension project in Charlotte, North Carolina. So again, it's about a 9.5 mile double-track light rail. I've only been to Charlotte a couple of times, so I can say that it goes from center to city to the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. I couldn't tell you where in Charlotte that is, but I think it does pass through the downtown area. They have a very nice video, if you go to the CAT's website, that sort of delineates what the right-of-way is going to be and the various different neighborhoods that it goes through, but I can't speak to that so well. About half of the system goes through two different railroad right-of-ways, both Norfolk Southern Railroad and the North Carolina Railroad, and that'll become important a little later on. The remaining of the balance of the project is in the North Tryon Street, which is a main thoroughfare in Charlotte, and it's within the North Carolina Department of Transportation right-of-way. And I think the big thing to just think about here is we've got three different organizations, three different right-of-ways. They're going to have different requirements for how you do, say, subsurface work, how you do your inspections, what kind of specifications or requirements are important to be looked at, especially when looking at soils. And so it's a long way of basically saying there are, again, a lot of requirements built into this project that inflate the complexity. It's hard enough to do digital data capture or data capture anyway when you've just got the one set of specifications or requirements. When you've got multiple agencies, all with multiple ideas of what needs to be collected and what's important, it just becomes exponentially more complex. So there would also be some road improvements and widening of North Tryon, as well as several cross streets. All told, 11 stations are going to be put in for this extension, 2 parking decks, 10 bridges, and about 500,000 square feet of what are called mechanically stabilized earthen walls. And this is just a diagram for anyone who, like me, might go, MSE, what's that? Don't know. You've seen these. You see these on I-25, I-40, but basically you've just got your fill and compacted earth behind a precast concrete facing wall, and it just holds it up. So when you drive by, say, the Paseo del Norte overpass and you see those long clean walls running up to the bridge structure, there's a whole lot of compacted earth inside those walls, and those are MSE walls. So 15 different construction contracts have been issued on this project, and it's a $1.2 billion project. So again, there's multiple agencies, and that means multiple requirements. As I said earlier, the FTA is funding part of the project, and so the FTA's quality requirements come into play, and those get flowed down to all of the contractors and subcontractors. Also again, NCDOT, various county agencies, the different freight carriers, and this was an interesting one, Duke and other power utilities, because they've got utility lines running through the right-of-ways where these tracks are going to go in, and so having to work with them in terms of what specifications are important, what methodologies are important, when we're doing work in and around your utility lines. A whole lot of people to coordinate and schedule. 15 different contractors doing work along this right-of-way, all of which may at one time or another require Kleinfelder to come out and do test and inspection of materials. Kleinfelder is doing both the horizontal and vertical test and inspection. Horizontal just means basically running along the right-of-way. So everything to do with the soil, the concrete that goes down, asphalt, etc. Vertical has to do with the structures that are being put up. So that's inspections of the stations as they're constructed. So one of the challenges was certainly staffing up the project and bringing on inspectors and technicians and onboarding them to understand all the different quality requirements they were going to have to face as well as the contracts. So again, really all this is just to say we've got a very complex project. There are a lot of different agencies that are interested in it, and we've got to find a way to satisfy them all in terms of our project scope, which is fast, efficient, and correct reporting of test data. Just to make it a little more difficult, again, Kleinfelder has two major subcontractors, AMEC and SEPI, that are also participating as part of doing the test and inspection work. And I've already talked a bit about digital interface with client record systems. In this case, the client has a database called eBuilder that they created specifically for this project. And so the goal was to have, again, a seamless digital capture that would give us records that could be uploaded easily to their eBuilder file system. So what did that mean? So we knew, again, as a testing agency, that our role is really, can we collect the data quickly? Can we make sure it's correct? And can we get it to the client efficiently? We also need to make sure that we don't lose control of our documents. That means the forms that we're using to capture the information, we don't have multiple revisions out there such that Inspector A and Inspector B end up using different revisions at different times. We've got to make sure that we don't have bogged down of tests going through the review cycle so that those reports get into the client on time. And one thing we found as we went through looking at how we were going to manage data collection and document control was that it gave us some other ways to use this technology that we came up with to address some other things such as the training aspect for our personnel. So again, why go paperless? I've already said that this is an industry that has kind of not wanted to go paperless, but it is happening. You know, it's if anyone's ever, do we have anyone anyone here from the design and construction world, contracting? Anyone? No one? No. Okay. Well, I'm sure that even in the world of electronic health records in hospitals, there must have been times where, I guess for us, the example of a documentation accident would be someone goes out with their field book, they're judiciously taking notes, they drop it, it gets run over by the bulldozer, and your notes are destroyed. I'm sure in the healthcare world there are incidents that happen where your recordation gets destroyed as well.
We just don't connect between the various groups.
Just disconnects.
I was going to say, some of these smaller doctors' offices, they're still not converting to that. So
They're still on paper
they're
charts.
still on paper. My doctor's one of them uses the old green bar. So, yeah, it'll be a while following.
Well, again, we found that especially with sort of the nature of the construction world, which is always, what's the most service I can get for the least price? That's a real drive towards having to go digital. Because the cost of just managing all that paper, the cost of the review process, the cost of archiving and maintaining all of that paper for typically 5 to 7 years after closure of the project, I mean, that's all cost. So the more we can go digital, the better for the bottom line. We also see better accuracy and improvement in terms of the reports. I'm sure everyone has had to deal with some handwriting on a report where you look at it this way, you look at it that way, it still doesn't make sense. You have to send it back and tell someone this time, print it out legibly so I can actually read it and make sense of it. So using electronic data capture does help to reduce some of that. We have had to learn to deal with technicians developing their typing speed, but all things have to be worked on. It just leads to a more efficient overall flow of the document process. So in a nutshell, this is what we were looking at was, again, the ability to send our inspectors and technicians out into the field with some sort of digital data capture instrument. And what we eventually decided upon was a tablet. They're relatively inexpensive. It's a flat screen, it's easy to use. Dust is typically a problem on any construction site. An issue with laptops can be that dust will get into the keyboards and pretty soon your keys jam up and you can't really use them. Um,